At a farmer's market in Poland, something unusual happened. A young boy stumbled upon a strange, oversized leather bag. As the vendor removed it from the stall, a crowd quickly gathered, curious about the bag. The bag's shape resembled a person curled in a fetal position. The authorities were promptly called to investigate. Detective Helena immediately identified it as tangible leather based on her farm experience. After taking photographs for evidence, she directed the bag to be carefully opened. Inside, they discovered the body of a man. His abdomen was severely decomposed and oozing fluid. The autopsy revealed the man had been sedated and branded. He was then wrapped alive inside the cowhide, exposed to the blistering sun. The leather shrank tightly, causing fatal internal bleeding. Helena traced the leather's origin to a nearby slaughterhouse. There, she learned that a cow had gone missing a week earlier. However, the facility lacked surveillance cameras. The victim turned out to be the slaughterhouse's manager. He was widely despised by workers for his cruelty. He ruled the factory with an iron fist. Workers were forbidden from using restrooms during grueling 14-hour shifts. They were even forced to wear diapers to comply. Those who resisted were punished by being locked in the freezer, or forced to drink 5 liters of water and work an additional 12 hours. As Helena prepared to head back to the station, she received reports of a horse causing chaos downtown. Witnesses claimed to have seen the horse at multiple locations. Helena and her partner split up to investigate. Helena quickly located the runaway horse. She identified it as a racehorse. The surrounding commotion was aggravating the animal. Helena ordered all nearby police sirens to be turned off. The horse immediately calmed down. Helena's actions earned applause from the crowd. Just as everyone thought the ordeal was resolved, Helena's partner radioed her in a panic, reporting another horse in the park. This horse had already injured 4 officers. Suddenly, Helena heard a piercing scream. That's when she noticed the horse was dragging a heavy rope. Following the rope's trail, Helena stumbled upon a horrifying sight: a mutilated corpse. This victim had been grotesquely dismembered. The word predator was etched into their abdomen. It became evident this was the work of a serial killer. Helena grasped the gravity of the situation. She secured the crime scene, rushed to her injured partner, only to find her partner had been trampled by the horse. The horse had collapsed from exhaustion. The other half of the mutilated body had been tied to this horse. The gruesome murders drew the attention of higher-ups. They dispatched a violent crime specialist to assist Helena, drawing on prior experiences. Helena assumed the new expert would be ineffective. Nevertheless, she went to the station to meet the so-called Hat Woman. The Hat Woman was unlike any expert Helena had met before. She insisted on heading straight to the crime scene. Her sharp deductions left a strong impression on Helena. She theorized the murderer positioned 2 horses on either side of a structure. The victim's limbs were tied to ropes connected to the horses. Small homemade explosives were attached to the horses' tails. The devices were triggered via cell phone signals. Once everything was in place, the murderer simultaneously called both phones to detonate the explosives. The terrified horses bolted in opposite directions. The force of the horses' pull dismembered the victim. Further inquiries revealed both victims were killed precisely at p.m. The Hat Woman shared a chilling historical tale about Wrocław. The city was once infamous as the Plague State. Each day from Monday to Saturday symbolized a specific vice. These included robbery, bribery, defamation, oppression, and deceit. At p.m. daily, Wrocław's executioner publicly punished someone for the day's sin. This hinted that over the next 4 days, a person would be killed daily, symbolizing a particular vice. Helena received confirmation of the second victim's identity from the police. The victim was a notorious loan shark operating at the racetrack. He lent money at exorbitant interest rates. Most borrowers found it impossible to repay him. Those who failed to pay had their teeth forcibly removed with pliers. He extorted everything they owned. He even mutilated men, sending their severed genitals to their families. The next murder occurred during a performance at the Opera House. At the show's climactic moment, a man was revealed tied to the center of the stage. He was surrounded by a ring of firewood. Initially, the audience assumed it was part of the performance, but the wood was suddenly ignited. The audience at the Opera House erupted in panic. The killer stood mere feet away from the victim. Helena realized the urgency and rushed to the scene. She informed the Hat Woman en route. Upon arriving at the Opera House, Helena was informed that the murderer had escaped backstage. She drew her weapon and charged into the backstage area. After conducting a meticulous search, she found no one but the Hat Woman, also searching. Her efforts yielded nothing. The next victim was identified as a finance minister. He had ignored illicit profits and corporate crimes during his tenure, although he deserved severe punishment. A lack of evidence had allowed him to evade justice. His case had been dismissed. The murderer branded the word corruption on his forehead. The following afternoon, Helena reported to the station as usual. She received shocking news that no profiler had been assigned to assist in the case. The Hat Woman was revealed to be a fabrication. Helena realized why the killer was not found in the locked backstage area of the Opera House. It became clear that the Hat Woman herself was the killer. She had cleverly deceived Helena during the chaos. Helena received a call from the Hat Woman. The caller instructed everyone to stay away from windows and lie flat on the floor. It was nearing PM, the time of the ritual murders. Helena urgently ordered everyone in the precinct to take cover. At that moment, a massive iron wheel smashed through the precinct window. A mutilated body was grotesquely strapped to the wheel. The word detractor was carved into the victim's chest. Later investigations revealed that it wasn't the department that identified the Hat Woman. She had reported herself anonymously. This confirmed that everything was unfolding according to her plan. More victims were likely to follow. Based on her psychological profile, her true identity was finally uncovered. She was a former deputy director of the Central Intelligence Agency. She had been dismissed from her position in 2003. The latest victim was her former colleague at the agency's theater division. The connection between them was becoming clearer. After learning her true identity, Helena quickly located her current residence. When the SWAT team arrived on the scene, they found only the Hat Woman's mother and her 2 daughters. Her mother explained that, due to genetic issues between her children and her late husband, both daughters suffered from severe spinal muscular dystrophy. The family was burdened by overwhelming medical expenses every year. Treating the condition entirely would require significant resources. Treatment for one child alone cost 540,000 euros. Her husband couldn't handle the pressure and abandoned them. They were now on the verge of being evicted due to unpaid debts. Helena showed her mother photos of the victims to confirm any connection. As the mother looked through the photos, the mother began recounting the tragic events that shaped the Hat Woman's life. After her husband left, the respected bureau chief framed her to maintain his position. This led to her losing her job. Later, while working in the finance department, she discovered her boss engaging in bribery. He was destroying evidence and implicated in numerous crimes. Motivated by a strong sense of justice, she decided to expose him. She reported her boss's corruption to the National Treasury. Her efforts, however, were in vain. Under her boss's influence, many individuals were complicit in this scheme. This resulted in her losing her job yet again. Despite this, she didn't give up. She escalated the issue to the Prime Minister. However, she received no response. A loan shark at the racetrack discovered she was in financial distress. He offered her a loan to gamble on horse races. He assured her the game would be rigged for her to win. She had known the loan shark since childhood. She trusted him completely. Unfortunately, she lost the gamble. The loan shark came to collect the debt. Knowing she couldn't pay, he proposed something sinister. He suggested selling her children for profit. It was a cruel scheme targeting her vulnerable children. With no other options available, she continued working tirelessly to repay her debts. This led her to take a grueling 14-hour shift at the slaughterhouse. Enduring the abusive conditions set by the manager, her physical condition began to deteriorate further. Her mother tearfully recounted these tragic events. By this time, only 12 minutes remained until PM. Helena realized the next target would likely be the landlord, the one who represented oppression in the killer's moral code. But they arrived too late to stop it. The Hat Woman had placed the landlord in a wooden barrel. The barrel was rolled down a steep hill. The landlord was struck and killed by a speeding vehicle. Helena chased after the fleeing Hat Woman. She pursued her to an abandoned building. There, the Hat Woman ambushed and knocked her unconscious. Fortunately, the Hat Woman refrained from harming her further. 2 hours later, Helena regained consciousness and returned to the station. She discovered a photo marked liar on her phone. It included a video of the Hat Woman denouncing deceit. The case escalated as suspicion arose that the Prime Minister might be the final target. The Department of Defense assumed control of the investigation. As the Prime Minister was known for his love of motorcycles, He participated in a high-profile motorcycle race the following day. As per the event's tradition, he was awarded a golden helmet after the race. However, when he attempted to wear the helmet, he discovered it wouldn't fit on his head. Inside the helmet was a severed human head. The head belonged to the Hatwoman. A USB drive was embedded in her mouth. An anonymous journalist also received a similar USB. Who orchestrated the Hatwoman's death? And who assisted in her final act? Helena sat by the roadside, lost in thought, listening to the news, piecing events together. During the 2 hours Helena had been incapacitated, she had regained consciousness, yet found herself restrained. The Hatwoman confessed to Helena about her victims. They had dismantled the happiness of her once thriving family, yet they faced no real consequences. Thus, she resolved to enact justice herself. The Hatwoman selected Helena specifically. She had been observing Helena for over a year. She knew Helena's fiancé had died in a car crash. The culprit was a drunken driver. The driver exploited his connections to escape justice. The Hatwoman believed Helena, having suffered similar injustice, would sympathize. The Hatwoman ended her life using a guillotine. Remarkably, her gamble paid off. Helena carried out the Hatwoman's last plan. The movie concluded on a grim note. Helena infiltrated the home of a man connected to her fiancé's death. She incapacitated him with a firearm. The story ends there.